when the violent storm and the winds of life seem to rip away every shred of hope you still have. It's at that very moment that your most important decision is made. Hold on tight or let go. It's easy to stand firm when the ground is solid, but what about when it gives way? It's easy to maintain faith when the sky is clear, but what about when it closes in with dark clouds? Holding on tight isn't a weak act, it's an act of war. It's a declaration to all hell that you won't surrender, because the moment the world points its finger and says, "It's over for you," that's exactly when God begins to move. What is impossible for man is, for God, merely the perfect stage to display His glory. It's when everyone turns their backs that He steps forward. It's when every door closes that He builds a new one. The secret isn't in understanding every step, but in trusting even when you can't see the way. Holding on tight is the invitation to see the impossible happen before your eyes. God's silence can be deafening to those in the midst of battle. You pray, fast, cry out, and it feels like your words hit the ceiling and fall back, as if they were nothing more than a whisper in the wind. But silence isn't absence, it's strategy. God doesn't need to announce every move to prove He's acting. Often, He's working in places you can't see, changing scenarios you can't control, removing people who were smiling on the outside but sabotaging on the inside. There are answers being written on paper you don't even know exist. The apparent pause is actually an invisible reconfiguration where He arranges every detail so that, when the answer comes, it will be greater than you asked for and more perfect than you imagined. God's silence doesn't mean He's forgotten you. It means He's busily shaping your miracle behind the scenes of eternity. When the pressure builds to the point where it feels like it's going to crush you, remember, diamonds aren't born from comfort, but from weight and intensity. If the battle is constant and the struggles are relentless, it's because the promise that awaits you is too great to be delivered unprepared. Every obstacle, every closed door, every no you received wasn't rejection, but protection. The enemy doesn't attack those who are empty. He attacks those who carry something of value, and you carry something of eternal value. The pressure you feel today isn't there to destroy, but to build the strength needed to sustain what's to come. It's like an archer pulling back the arrow. The greater the tension, the further it will fly. So don't see pressure as punishment, but as the announcement that the target is near. What tightens your chest today is the same force that will launch you tomorrow toward the destiny God has already prepared. The fire you face now is not burning to destroy, but to refine. Just as gold is purified in the flames, God allows certain trials to remove everything that cannot carry you to the next level. Fear, doubt, insecurity, every spark of this spiritual furnace is consuming what weakens you, so that only what is solid, true, and eternal remains. The heat that seems unbearable today is actually the process that will make you unbreakable. You will not emerge from this phase wounded and defeated, but strengthened and renewed. You will emerge not bitter, but wiser, not fragile, but more steadfast, not diminished, but expanded in courage and faith. When the fire dies down, you will not be the same, you will be the version God designed, honed to sustain miracles greater than you can imagine. And then, looking back, you will realize, the fire didn't destroy me. It shaped me. God's timing isn't driven by human haste. He arrives neither late nor too early. He arrives at the precise moment when the miracle will be not just a relief, but a revelation. Every pause you experience now is part of a perfect symphony, where even silence plays a fundamental role. Sometimes the wait seems like an endless desert, but it is in this interval that God is building the foundations that will sustain the promise. If He had delivered sooner, perhaps you wouldn't be ready to bear the weight of the blessing. Delay isn't denial, it's maturation. Just as a fruit needs the right time to ripen and acquire flavor, your destiny also needs the right time to be sweet and lasting. God isn't just preparing what you will receive, He is preparing you to receive it. And the moment He says now, nothing and no one can delay what has already been determined in heaven for your life. The impossible is the stage where God displays His glory most clearly. He waits for the moment when all human resources are exhausted, when there are no more plans or strength, to then act in a way that no one can credit any source other than Him. What seems like a dead end to you is actually the perfect setting for the extraordinary. The sea doesn't part when there are still boats available. It parts when there is no other alternative. The impossible shouldn't be seen as a sentence of defeat, but as an opportunity to witness something that surpasses logic and explanation. It is there, at the point where you say, "I can't do it anymore," that God says, "Now it's my turn." And when He enters the scene, what was once an obstacle becomes a stepping stone, and what was a threat becomes a testimony. The impossible is not the end, it is the beginning of the supernatural. You weren't buried, you were planted. The difference is that what's buried is forgotten, but what's planted is awaited. Perhaps the place where you are today is dark, silent, and cramped, and everything within you screams to come out. But just as a seed must die in the soil to generate life, this time hidden is essential for your growth. The tears that fell were not wasted, they watered the earth. The pain you felt was not in vain, it fertilized your faith. And when the right season arrives, you will break the surface with strength and beauty, showing that nothing, not even the weight of the earth upon you, could stop what God has planted. What seemed like a delay was actually the time needed to grow deep roots. And these roots will hold you steady when the wind blows, because those planted by God are not shaken. They flourish. Waiting is not passivity, it is war. It is looking at time passing, at the doors still closed, and yet declaring firmly, I trust. Waiting is an act of resistance against anxiety, comparison, and giving up. It is refusing to give in to the pressure to rush ahead of time. It is keeping your heart steadfast even when others receive before you. The enemy wants you to confuse waiting with abandonment, but waiting on God is the field where faith is strengthened. Each day you remain, even without seeing results, is a sword raised against doubt. It is a silent cry that echoes in heaven. I will not move until his time comes. And when the moment comes, what seemed lost will become living proof that the wait was not a waste, but preparation for something greater than you dared imagine. Those who wait on God never lose, they only mature. While you stare fixedly at the mountain, God is working in the valley. He is shaping invisible areas of your character, forging patience, humility, and resilience so that you not only reach your destination but remain there. What appears to be stagnation is actually honing. The version of you that exists today is not enough to sustain what he has planned for tomorrow. And that's why forging is necessary. It's behind the scenes of life, far from applause and recognition, that he builds the strength that cannot be taken away by circumstances. The training is silent, but the fruits will be evident. When the door finally opens, you won't enter insecure, but prepared. You won't enter with fear, but with authority. God doesn't waste a single second of this season, because each day in this process is a fundamental building block for the future he has already designed for you. When the storm arrives, many wonder why God allows so much suffering, why the pain seems endless. But the truth is that the storm is the laboratory where your faith is tested and strengthened. God is not distant, indifferent to your suffering. He is right in the center of the storm, holding you steady so you don't break. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt is like a drop that accumulated, builds an invisible strength within you. It is in this silent struggle that you become more than you ever imagined. When the storm finally passes, you will see that it wasn't just the storm that changed you to, now more resilient, with unshakable faith, capable of facing any challenge, because the test was meant to show the greatness of God's power at work within you. You may be wondering, how can you continue to believe in God when everything around you seems to be falling apart? The answer lies in understanding that faith is not the absence of doubts, but the conscious decision to trust despite them. It invites us to surrender our fears and uncertainties, showing that he is a firm anchor in the midst of chaos. The Bible is full of stories where people faced loss, betrayal, and disappointment, but never lost hope. Faith is like a seed planted in the soil of adversity. It needs to be watered, even when the storm insists on raging. If you cling to this hope, your story will be a living testimony of divine power, proof that even in the greatest difficulties, God works to transform pain into victory, sadness into joy, darkness into light. This is the promise for those who remain steadfast in faith, regardless of the circumstances. But what really happens inside you when you decide to trust God, even without understanding the reason for things? That's when faith begins to work in your heart, shaping your mind to see beyond the visible. Instead of focusing on the problem, you begin to focus on God's presence, which brings peace even when all seems lost. This internal transformation is essential to keeping hope alive. The Bible reminds us in Romans 8:28 that all things work together for good to those who love God. This means that even when events seem negative, they have a greater purpose, which we often only understand later. It is this conviction that strengthens your resilience and makes you feel more prepared and less alone with each new challenge, knowing that there is a divine plan silently working in your favor. Trust becomes an invisible shield against discouragement and hopelessness. When you decide to trust God, even without understanding, a profound process begins to unfold in your life, a transformation of your perspective. Instead of seeing challenges as insurmountable barriers, you begin to see them as opportunities to grow and strengthen your faith. This shift in perspective doesn't happen overnight, but is built daily, with each conscious choice to place your trust in what you can't see, but feel. The Bible says in Hebrews 11:1 that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This means that, even in doubt, you maintain firm hope because you know something greater is at work behind the scenes of your story. It is this invisible certainty that sustains your strength, preventing fear and anxiety from dominating your mind. Over time, trust becomes not just an emotional response, but a lifestyle, where each step is taken with the conviction that you are being guided by a higher hand, even when the path seems uncertain or too difficult to traverse. Trusting God without understanding is the first step toward a journey of deep and lasting spiritual growth. When you choose this trust, you open the space for your faith to grow stronger. even amidst the chaos and doubts that naturally arise in life. This attitude doesn't eliminate problems or difficulties, but it changes the way you deal with them. Because the certainty that you are not alone brings an inner relief that no circumstance can take away. It's like walking in the dark holding the hand of someone who knows the way. You can't see everything around you, but you feel the security and courage to continue. This trust without explanation also defies human logic, because it requires complete surrender, a relinquishment of absolute control over the future. This creates a favorable environment for God to act in mysterious ways, working on your behalf in ways you can't even imagine. By surrendering your worries and doubts, you discover an inexplicable peace that transcends any rational understanding, and this peace begins to shape your heart and mind, preparing you for the blessings yet to come. Accepting that we don't always understand God's plans is a profound demonstration of humility and spiritual maturity. The human mind often seeks clear and immediate explanations for everything that happens. But God works in a greater plan, where time and circumstances are not always clear to us. When you accept this reality, you begin to realize that life is a process of continuous learning, and that faith depends not on complete understanding, but on trust in divine love and wisdom. This acceptance allows you to stop struggling with the unknown and instead open yourself to the lessons that arise along the way, even if they are difficult or uncomfortable. It is in this space of acceptance that growth occurs, because you come to understand that every challenge, every moment of uncertainty, has a purpose that is often only revealed with time. This recognition brings a sense of freedom, as you stop trying to control everything and begin to live more lightly, allowing God to guide your steps calmly and securely. Furthermore, this attitude strengthens your emotional and spiritual resilience, making you better prepared to face adversity and celebrate victories with gratitude. Accepting the mystery of divine plans is, therefore, an invitation to live with active faith, which doesn't demand immediate proof, but trusts that everything is happening for your highest good. Developing patience in the face of God's plans is essential for those seeking a balanced and fulfilling life. In a world that values speed and immediacy, learning to wait may seem difficult, but it is precisely in this process that faith is strengthened. Patience does not mean passivity, but rather the ability to remain steadfast and serene, even when the desired results seem slow to arrive. It is like a seed that needs time to grow and blossom. There is no point in trying to speed up the process, as each step is essential for healthy development. By practicing patience, you begin to understand that God's timing is perfect, even if it doesn't coincide with your plans or expectations. This understanding helps reduce anxiety and stress, allowing you to live in the present with greater awareness and gratitude. Furthermore, patience opens the door to learning, as during the wait, you can reflect, adjust your attitudes, and prepare for the opportunities that lie ahead. With patience, you develop the ability to trust in the right timing for things to happen, strengthening your spiritual connection and your ability to cope with adversity. Thus, patience becomes a virtue that transforms difficulties into growth, preparing you to receive the best that life and God have to offer. Overcoming fear is one of the greatest challenges we face when trusting in God's plans. Fear paralyzes, creates doubts, and limits our actions, preventing us from moving forward toward what is in store for us. However, acknowledging this fear is the first step to overcoming it, as only then can we confront it and lessen its power over our minds and hearts. Faith, in this context, acts as a powerful antidote, reminding us that we are not alone and that there is a greater purpose guiding our steps. Even when everything seems uncertain, trusting in God means surrendering our fears and insecurities to Him, knowing that He has the strength and wisdom to protect and guide us. By overcoming fear, we open space for courage to grow within us, allowing us to make decisions aligned with divine plans, even if they involve risk or change. This process requires daily practice, as fear can return at any moment, but each victory over it strengthens our confidence and our ability to face challenges. Furthermore, overcoming fear helps us see opportunities that were previously hidden, as anxiety and insecurity no longer block our vision. Thus, we learn that true freedom lies in trusting fully, knowing that even in storms, God is in control, and that our dreams and purposes are possible. When we set aside fear and choose to move forward with faith, building faith is an ongoing process that requires dedication, patience, and constant action. It's not just about passively believing, but about cultivating a living and active relationship with God, which strengthens our trust in His plans. The foundation of this development lies in daily prayer, meditation on Scripture, and seeking to understand how God works in our lives, even in the simplest situations. Each challenge faced and overcome strengthens our faith, showing that we are capable of going beyond what we imagine when we trust fully. Furthermore, it's essential to be open to learning from experiences, both good and difficult, as they shape our character and our worldview. Faith also grows when we connect with people who share this same belief, forming a support network that inspires and motivates. Another important aspect is recognizing that faith doesn't eliminate doubts, but it teaches us to deal with them without losing hope. When we build this solid faith, it becomes a firm foundation that supports our steps, gives us courage to act, and reminds us that, even when we don't see the complete path, there's a greater plan in motion. This construction is an investment that transforms not only our spiritual vision but also our practical life, bringing peace, focus, and direction to the decisions we need to make daily. Maintaining strong faith in the face of difficulties is one of the greatest challenges we face in life, but it is precisely at these times that it can become most powerful. When storms arise, it's common for doubt to creep in, causing us to lose focus and hope. However, it is precisely in these moments that we need to remember the promises and divine care that never abandons us. True faith manifests itself in perseverance, in the ability to continue believing even when results are not yet visible. It is a daily exercise in trust, where each courageous step taken further strengthens this spiritual connection. Furthermore, it is important to seek inspiration in real stories of people who overcame obstacles thanks to faith, as they show us that it is possible to overcome adversity. Prayer, meditation, and the support of a community that shares this same faith are also fundamental tools for renewing our strength. When we maintain this attitude, faith ceases to be just a belief and becomes a transformative force, capable of shifting our perspective and leading us to paths of light. If you enjoyed this content and want to strengthen your spiritual journey, don't forget to like the channel, share this video with those who need to hear this message, and follow so you don't miss the next reflections that can transform your life.